Alongside Jesse Simonton, Rob Lewis, and Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price for the Rocky Top Roundtable. It's Georgia week, guys. Let's dive right into it. The question all week, and we'll probably lead right up to kickoff, will be who's Tennessee's starting quarterback. We'll start with the incumbent, Jarrett Guarantano. Make the case for JG.
Well, he's got the most experience. He's played in big ball games before. He knows what he is getting into with what Georgia will do. He's played in this matchup before. I think that would be, the case for him, if you will. We know he's not playing very well right now, but he has seen what Georgia would bring at him.
Yeah, if it's Guarantano, then I think you probably go with number 2. If it's Guarantano, which is what he's been going by this season, I think the likelihood is that you're more likely to not lean on a second guy, which right now seems to be Brian Maurer. Again, Guarantano does have some experience against Georgia, gone up against them a couple times. Last season, he had the one touchdown throw to Josh Palmer that kind of got Tennessee back in the game. Then Ty Chandler found him on a little swing pass. So at least he has seen some success against the Bulldogs. The question is, where's his confidence, coming out of a bye week and out of a really poor performance against Florida, Rob? And does that mean that Tennessee should turn to 18?
I mean, I don't mean to be fatalistic, but I can see the case for Guarantano starting just because of the experience factor. But I think it's based off what we've seen in the first 4 games, and unless you just think Jarrett flipped the switch in the open week, play the young guy. Just see what you got. I don't think Tennessee wins this game regardless of who's at quarterback. So, I think you go in with a plan to get Maurer a look, or even JT Shroud, if you're not sure. I'm not sure that Maurer has shown enough yet to just nail down the idea that he's the second guy. But I think if you're Tennessee, you go in with a plan this week to play more than one quarterback.
Austin, I'll say this, and I'll throw it to you for your opinion, but regardless of who the quarterback is, Jim Chaney's got to manage his quarterbacks better. Got to help him out more. Whether you're going to play the experienced guy, he needs help. Whether you play the freshman,
he definitely needs help.
You got to manage your quarterbacks better than you managed them the first 4 games.
Yeah, I agree. Whether it's the check with me notion, which is something you've been pushing for a while. When you look at Brian Maurer, you go to that Florida game, and he's a guy that made a few plays early to start the second half. Got the ball out of his hand pretty quick. Also made some mistakes and got away with a couple of throws. Brent, can he use these 2 weeks leading up to this game to improve? I would think so. I would say, I know for a fact he's gotten a lot more run with the ones, the last 2 weeks than he ever did leading up to that Florida game. So you'd have to think, just the receivers he's throwing to, the more reps, the more kind of work and tutelage under Jim Chaney, it helps number 18.
Well, and put a plan in place for him, okay? You played him in the Florida game, Jesse. You didn't play necessarily to his strengths. You did that opening drive, but then you got into just almost a 7-on-7 type game with him, and that's not where he's at right now.
Oh, I would even say by the end of the opening drive, this throw to Cedric Tillman kind of being a prime example of that. They just started asking him to drop back. They cut out some of the RPOs. If Brian Maurer is going to be back there, you're going to have to incorporate the quarterback run, whether that's the quarterback power, speed sweeps, and then you're going to have to actually commit to running the football a little bit, which Tennessee has not done the last, definitely against Florida, kind of shied away from it by the end of the Chattanooga game as well. So, if 18 is going to be back there, the game plan must change. He can't be, you can't ask him to drop it back 12 straight times or whatever he did against the Gators.
We all know what Georgia brings to the table offensively. Jake Fromm, DeAndre Swift. This is a team that's got a lot of weapons, and Swift is as good as back as anybody in the United States.
Well, he is. I think the key for Tennessee defensively, Rob, is you got to keep the ball in front of you, and you got to get guys on the ground. You can't have a bunch of missed tackles.
What I hate for Tennessee in this matchup is just Georgia's ground game. Even if it's not dynamic, I just think it's going to be 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2. I have a very hard time seeing Tennessee getting the chains in their favor against Georgia's offense. And part of that's the way Fromm manages the game, but most of it's just that massive offensive line and quality tailbacks. I don't know where Tennessee's we talk about explosive offensive plays. I don't see where Tennessee's explosive defensive plays are going to come in this game. I think Georgia's. I don't know that they'll be dynamic. I just think it'll be steady. I have a hard time seeing Tennessee stopping them.
Well, to your point, Rob, part of Georgia is number 4 in the country in yards per play this year. They're ahead of LSU, which has put up 1 million points, and some other schools are right behind Oklahoma and Alabama. They're gaining almost 8-9 yards a pop, very balanced. They don't try to trick you, Brent. I mean, they're going to line it up.
They don't have to.
They don't have to. It's a lot of 12 personnel, and then they'll go into 3 wides and let Fromm kind of pitch it around. It's up to Tennessee, I think, to win on first down. Can they get some pressure? They were able to get a little bit a year ago. Obviously, Darrell Taylor had kind of a coming out party. Can that happen again? I think Georgia's allowed 1 sack all season.
Well, I think you got to be dynamic, Austin. I mean, and when I say dynamic, you got to be creative. It's got to be more than a boundary blitz on second and long, okay? Because that's the staple in this defense. The Nick Saban does it, Kirby Smart does it. You're going to have some defensive guys went up front. You're going to have to schematically come up with something a little bit outside of the box, okay? And I'm not saying like the Prowler package or whatever that John Chavis brought out years ago, but I'm saying do something unique. Do something different, because a year ago, Darrell Taylor had a breakout game, but you also had Shy Tuttle making some plays. You had Kyle Phillips, 2 guys that are in the NFL making some plays. They're not there on the defensive line. They're just not there at this point in time on their defensive line. So you're going to have to get creative.
You are, and then the secondary's got to hold up. And that's a tall order to ask when you factor in that Bryce Thompson's likely still a little bit rusty. You know, Alante Taylor's been battling a hamstring. Warren Burrell, has got a little bit of a nagging ankle. This is a secondary that has just as many question marks as the defensive line to me going into this matchup, and that's rough against what Jesse described as one of the top offenses in the country.
Well, you're going to have to play man to man, because I think you're going to have to commit safeties in the box to stop the run. So I think you're going to have to line up and play some man to man coverage out there and take your chances that maybe Fromm's off a little bit. Or that Georgia didn't take a bunch of deep shots, and you got to try to load up the box. If Tennessee safeties, Jesse, are 20, 22 yards off the ball and backing up when the ball's snapped, it's going to be a long afternoon trying to stop the run.
I agree.
All right, Tennessee found their way into a battle last year before Georgia pulled away late. Can they find their way into a 3 or 4 quarter game this Saturday night at 7? We'll find out on Saturday night. For Jesse Soundington, Rob Lewis, and Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price for the Rocky Top Roundtable.